Hello, everyone. Welcome to Zoomtopia and our Always Room for Zoom Rooms session. My name is Vincent Escamilla. I'm a technical trainer and course developer at Zoom. And I am joined today by our very special guest, Chris Rouge. And it's a very special day for him as well because today is his birthday. Happy birthday, Chris.
Thank you. It's the big 30 this year. Yikes. So yeah, I'm Chris Rouge. I'm from Zendesk. I am in charge of all of our audiovisual systems, and I manage our Zoom instance at Zendesk. So that includes all of our user base and all of our Zoom rooms. So I'll be here helping with Vincent to show you some information about Zoom rooms.
Great. So before we begin, how many of you have Zoom rooms deployed in your environment? Okay. Now, using your fingers, how many of you have 0 to 10 Zoom rooms? You can show me fingers, but try to avoid obscene finger gestures. Okay, great. How many of you have 11 to 50 Zoom rooms deployed? All right, 51 to 100? And how many of you have over 100? Awesome, all right.
Nice. Solid.
So regardless of how many Zoom rooms you have, don't worry because there is always room for Zoom rooms. And so what we're going to talk about today is some of the administration of Zoom rooms, how to deploy and manage. Now, Chris, how many Zoom rooms do you have deployed at Zendesk?
We're just about 300.
Okay,
So
300
globally.
Zoom rooms. So that's a lot of Zoom rooms.
Just a few.
So Chris knows a thing or two because he's seen a thing or two. So without further ado, Chris, take it away.
Sweet, thank you. So we're going to start with some adding Zoom rooms. That's kind of, you need to add Zoom rooms in order to have Zoom rooms. So a little pro tip, make sure you get your calendar resources set up first. So in your Outlook or Google, make sure those are created already. It makes it a little easier so you don't have to kind of go back and forth from Zoom to Google to Zoom back and forth. Zoom makes it really easy once you have the calendar integration set up. You can actually go through and add directly from there. It populates a full list of Zoom rooms. You can go ahead and just click Make a Zoom Room. It'll put it into the location hierarchy and unassigned and off and running. So super quick, super easy. You can also go ahead and go from the hierarchy itself and add a room directly into your hierarchy. So if you want to make it for a specific floor, specific building, etc., you can add it right there. So super easy, 2 ways to do it, ready to rock and roll. So once you've got your Zoom rooms added, built, created, you need to make sure you get the app on your controller, on your Zoom room computer. At Zendesk, we actually use our MDM management tool to push out the Zoom Room app to both the controller and the Zoom Room computer. This makes it really easy. We don't have to worry about going to the Apple Store or going to zoom.us/download. It just automatically put it into a profile and it downloads and sets up the devices specifically for Zoom, ready to rock and roll. Once you have the app and the app installed on the controller and on the computer, Zoom makes it really easy to get up and running. So we use the pairing code. So this is great because it actually allows, if you're giving the devices to an installer, for a new build out for an office, you basically they can go through, take the pairing code off of the Zoom Room computer itself, enter it onto the iPad controller. The Zoom Room's up and running. They can test basic functionality. They can test out the microphones, the speakers, the webcams, without you having to go and sign into the room itself. So it makes it really easy. They can start playing around, making sure everything's up and running, and then once you're ready to, you can go in to that Zoom Room, enter the activation code, and then once the activation code, then you get your Google Calendar sync. You can see your meeting list within your iPad, etc. So it makes it really easy to get it up and running and rolling from there. Next, you've got your Zoom rooms. So once your Zoom rooms are up and running, you need to do some things to manage them, to get them kind of configured, set up. I love Zoom because you can configure and set up everything directly from the admin portal. I don't have to go into an individual room to make a setting change. I can do that straight from the admin portal, which makes life really easy. I work remotely because I manage our global office and Zoom instance, so I can actually make changes from that admin portal, so I love that. Makes life way easy for me. One of the great things about this too is if you have folks around the globe or on your team that are managing Zoom rooms only, you can actually set up user roles within Zoom to allow them to only access Zoom rooms. So if you don't want them to see the billing information, you don't want them to be able to use the API and pull different logs, you can set them up so they can only access Zoom room information, and so you don't have to worry about that kind of other side of it. So we do that. We have a global service desk team that manages the Zoom rooms in each office. They have the ability to go in, make settings, changes, adjustments, but they only have access to this Zoom room, so they can't see any of that other stuff that we don't need them to see. So once you're set up, you'll want to go to your account settings. There's a ton of stuff in here, so I'm not going to have time to go through all of it today. There's a whole bunch going on. So if you head down to the Zoom Rooms section of the settings page in your account settings, there's a few things. The first one is this upcoming meeting alert. This one's huge for us. How many of you have been that awkward person outside of a meeting room? There's a meeting going on, and people in there don't realize there's another meeting going on, and you want them to get off. You kind of have to peer around, maybe knock on the thing. This upcoming meeting alert is super helpful. It pops up a message on screen at 10 minutes saying, hey, there's an upcoming meeting. Your Zoom Room controller will also turn yellow and show the next meeting, so it's kind of a visual cue for those individuals to say, hey, there's another meeting coming up, maybe wrap your stuff up. And then at the time of the next meeting, the iPad controller or your Zoom Room controller turns red, says, hey, now it's really time to get out. So super helpful. It makes, since we've rolled this out and turned this on in our instance, meetings throughout the day just go a lot smoother. We've gotten great feedback around this because they're not waiting. People are like, oh, it's red, I need to get out. So it makes life way easy. The next one is the weekly system restart. This is just a simple one. It reboots the computer at 2 a.m. on Sunday local time, whatever the machine's set to. It just makes things run smoother. These machines are on all the time, running constantly. It's super helpful to have them reboot. Zoom launches automatically, so you don't have to do anything. It does itself. I've never had any problems with it, but it makes sure that computer gets rebooted, the USB works better, we don't have issues with cameras disconnecting, speakers disconnecting, etc. So that's something that we like to do. The next is this meeting list on TV. So we don't actually use this on all of our conference rooms, but we do use it for instances of some of our executives like to have their meetings displayed up on screen. And so what this actually does is it puts a box in the Zoom room display that says the upcoming meeting list. So it's very helpful if you're also walking by, you can see a list and say, okay, is this room free or not? Is there meetings upcoming in it? Just from the screen. You don't have to walk in, go to that iPad controller or whatever controller you're using and look at that meeting list. It just pops them up right there for you to see. Makes it really easy to see what's going on. Executives love it because they don't have to go back and forth to their calendar. They can quickly glance up in their offices and say, oh, cool, I have a meeting coming up at 2 o'clock. I have some time. Next is the hide host and meeting IDs for private meetings. So if you make a meeting private within Google or your Outlook, whatever service you're using, this actually hides the host and the meeting. So we have a lot of clients coming in, customers coming in. If you may be having executive interviews, if you have a meeting going on about an acquisition or something, this actually hides all that information so that nobody can kind of see. If you have a customer coming in early, in a meeting at 11, they can't see that at noon you have another customer coming in that's maybe one of their competitors coming in to do that. So it's very nice. You can kind of hide things. They can't see it. Makes things nice and easy. Next, one of my favorite features is this automatic direct sharing using ultra proximity magic. This is probably my favorite thing in Zoom. All you have to do when you go into a Zoom room is go to your Zoom app, hit share screen, and it knows that you're in that room magically, and will automatically start sharing. Yeah, exactly, wizardry. It'll automatically start sharing your screen. We tried to trick it. Like I got next to two rooms that were right next to each other and held my computer as close to the other one as I could. Tried to hit the ultrasonic proximity share. Didn't work. It knew what room I was in, and it's magic. Makes it nice and easy. You don't have to worry about entering a meeting ID. You don't have to worry about doing a sharing code, any of that. It just starts in the room. It's genius. So whoever designed that, thank you. I love you. Cool. Next, cloud recordings for instant meetings. Allowing cloud recording for instant meetings. This is nice if you do have those impromptu meetings, you haven't booked a conference room, you pulled into a room, started a meeting, oh crap, I want to record this because it's vital information for the rest of my team to hear. If you enable this, now you can actually record it. It pops up a little text input. You can put your email address in, boom, off you go, and you can record your meeting. So that's kind of the account settings. So these are like things, we have these set globally. So these are going to be making sure that, all of our Zoom rooms around the world are set up and configured the same. And then from there, from the account settings, you can actually go to the Zoom room settings. There's a few other things within here that you can set up for rooms individually. But first, when you go to the Zoom rooms tab on your account page, you come to this hierarchy page. This hierarchy page is super helpful for organizing your Zoom rooms. You can do things, you can organize them by location, you can organize them by floor, you can organize them however you want. But what's really nice is you don't actually have to use them by location. You can do things like if you have scheduling displays only, or you have just digital signage. So you can have screens up around the office for digital signage, and you can have those in a building, so you can configure the settings directly from there. So it makes it really nice. You can actually then adjust settings from within this hierarchy just for those that set of Zoom rooms. We use this a lot at Zendesk. We roll out betas. So right now in one office, we're betaing the check-in feature. So we rolled it out just to that one office, so we can go into the settings for just that office and push these updates out. It's also great for doing updates, so we'll talk about updating here in a little bit, but it makes it really easy to update Zoom for just a certain office, for just a floor, just one device if we want to go through and we're testing out the new version before we push it out. So super helpful. It makes life as an admin way easy, so you can actually kind of configure how you want. So some of the things, when you go to this hierarchy, you can then go navigate to a room or a floor, and then you can go and hit the settings for that. So you can adjust settings. So what's great about this is it allows you to configure some of the settings individually for the rooms. So first is the room passcode. People are nosy and like to go play around in the settings and try to configure, change microphones. They think they know what they're doing, and they think that you should be using one microphone or the other. We set up a room passcode so nobody can get into those settings, because every time they do, they break things. Sorry, they do. So we make sure we have that set so that you can't do that. Next, the Zoom room check-in. This is a new feature, and it's awesome. We've rolled it out because, I don't know about you, but we have problems with the number of meeting rooms we have. They're always booked. They're never free. This Zoom room check-in feature actually allows you to set a time, 5, 10, or 15 minutes. And if nobody uses that room, so if no one checks in, a check-in could be starting a Zoom meeting, starting a phone call, a screen share, or just simply pressing check-in if they're just having like a local meeting. If no one has done that within that set period of time, it automatically removes that calendar resource from that meeting. So it keeps all the other meeting rooms up and running, but that one resource is removed and frees up the calendar. So say someone has a 3-hour meeting that they ended up not needing, you just gained back 3 hours of conference room time. This is huge. It also sends a notification to that user to say, hey, your meeting's been deleted. And then they can preemptively go back and say, oh, this is a one-on-one for an employee that no longer works here. So they get that notification to then go back through and they can then delete the meetings that they need to get rid of. Super helpful. We've rolled this out and people love it. They're like, oh my gosh, meeting rooms, we have more available. We have a Slack channel that says, does anybody have a conference room? And the noise in that channel has gone down drastically since we rolled this out. So it's great. Next. One of the great things also is that, so you're not having to go to their room, right, to fix problems. So as a service manager or if you're a help desk and you're managing these conference rooms in a local office, you can actually do a lot of things from just within here. I can restart the computer or the Zoom room app. So this is great. We have global offices, and sometimes people work late. Sometimes people come into the office early. So say I get into the office at 6 o'clock, I have an issue, I can send a ticket to IT. Someone in Australia or in England can actually go into that room, restart the Zoom app, see if maybe the screen's frozen or something's going on. They can restart this app remotely. So you don't have to necessarily go to that room, right? It saves you that 10 minutes waiting at the elevator, someone bumps into you and wants to chat. I can just do this from my desk. I don't have to go anywhere. So that makes really handy. And then also in these settings, I can actually change what microphone. So if for some reason, my Revo Labs microphone or my Logitech Meetup got disconnected, I can actually go in and change which microphone I want to use, which camera I want to use. This is great. If you have a training room and you're wanting to set up, you have a special camera for an event, you can actually go in here and change it remotely without having to go to that room. So super helpful, and makes it as someone that manages Zoom rooms super easy. Who's had that room that an architect builds and it looks amazing? Sorry if there's architects out here. I'm not hating. I love you. Promise. But it's full of hard surfaces. It's square. It's terrible. It looks great. Sounds like a bathroom. This reduced excessive sound reverberation is great. It doesn't fix the problem fully, but it does take a little bit of that room noise out and makes the conversations a little more intelligible. It's great. We use pretty much exclusively USB microphones that we can't really do any kind of tuning to. So if we do have these rooms, as much as we tell the architects not to do it, they do it. Sorry. This is helpful. It makes it a little bit better, and we can say, oh yeah, we changed that for you. Hopefully it sounds better. And normally people are a little bit more impressed. So it's good. Next, if you go to the meeting settings, you had all those settings that we talked about a little bit ago in the account settings. If you go to the meeting settings here, you can actually adjust these for individual rooms. So I can set it up if I don't like that ultrasonic proximity share magic, I can actually go to an individual room and turn it off. So if you don't want someone to use it for whatever reason. If I don't want this computer restart weekly, I can turn that off. If for whatever reason. So we use this a lot. We have some specialty rooms that we need to kind of make some, individual changes for. We actually can go in and then say, okay, for this specific room, we want to do this. For this specific room, we don't want this. So it's really nice to be able to kind of go in, configure a room individually, and make sure that, a room is functioning as it needs to be. Different offices have different cultures and like things different ways. So sometimes that means we have to set up settings differently in those offices. And then finally, one of my favorite things here for the Zoom rooms is the alert settings. So someone as a team that manages the Zoom rooms and is responsible for keeping them up and running and for allowing the business to function, Zoom lets you go in and create alerts for when something in the room is going wrong. So whether it's someone decided to unplug the charging cable from the room controller and use it to charge their phone and never plugged it back in, or a microphone got disconnected because someone leaned back and kicked it out, you can get an alert sent to an email address that says, hey, this microphone's been disconnected, this iPad's battery's low, etc. And then this allows you to preemptively go in and fix this. So one of the things that we've done at Zendesk is we've actually set it up a Slack channel for each individual office. And then that channel, we use an email address for that channel and get notified for that specific office. So now somebody in San Francisco isn't getting alerted necessarily to all of the issues going on in London. Someone in London isn't seeing Melbourne's issues. So they get notified, and then they can preemptively go to that room and say, oh, someone's unplugged the room controller. They can go in there and fix it before they have to wait, before that next meeting starts, and there's, someone's having to send you urgent, like, oh my God, I'm trying to have this meeting, there's a client, da da da. You can already have that issue fixed, resolved, and no one is any wiser. So it's great. And you can go ahead and customize it. So if there's certain rooms that you don't care about as much, or if there's more high profile rooms and you want to get an alert for every single thing that's going on in that room, you can go in and then change it. And then you can utilize that location hierarchy, so I can do that by room, by building, by floor, etc. Cool. So that's kind of for the settings, those are kind of like the main ones that we find have the most impact. Once you're kind of up and running, your Zoom rooms are going, Zoom releases new features, you got to make sure that your computers are up to date. One of the great things about the Zoom portal is it actually allows you to update the Zoom Room app directly from the admin portal. So again, this is one of the great things about the hierarchy is I can select my entire organization. I can select just a floor, a building, a room itself, and I can actually go to devices and update that Zoom controller, or the Zoom Room app. The controller you can't do from here, but it makes it really nice. We do at Zendesk, we roll out updates globally, and so we'll have somebody in Australia start an update for San Francisco, and then have someone in San Francisco come in and just check and verify, in the morning, first thing, that all the rooms are up and running. So this makes it really easy to kind of keep that up to date. You get to use the latest feature set, and you don't have to go to individual rooms to do anything. It's automatically pushed out. It downloads in the background, and then if there's not a meeting going on, it quits, updates, relaunches Zoom. No one's any the wiser, up and running. I've probably done this, I don't know how many times, 15, 20 times globally, and have had almost no issues updating. So it's great. It makes it life easy for me. For the Zoom iPad, or for the controller app, we use our MDM tool. To do that, but this is nice. I mean, we use it for testing features when a new version comes out. We have a Zoom room in every office that we actually test features out, and so we push this feature out. We update. We have in the hierarchy, we have a room that says this is all of our test rooms, and one in each office in case there's weirdness, and then we can go and update. You can also downgrade. So if for some reason you don't like this new version, there's a bug in it, you can actually go in, hit downgrade, and now that room reverts back to the last version, and you can be back up and running again. All right, moving along. You're up to date, you're running. Now you want to see some metrics, right? Your business owner wants to see what's going on. You want to see, am I having a lot of issues with Zoom rooms? So there's the dashboard. Does anybody not know about the dashboard, or didn't even know it existed? And you can see all these cool metrics. Well, so if you go down on the left-hand side to the dashboard, it actually gives you a lot of metrics around your Zoom rooms. So from the metrics here, you can see, okay, what are the main rooms that I'm having that have issues? So if I can preemptively, okay, so maybe this one room has issues every day. I can go in there and see, okay, what's causing this issue? I can also use the satisfaction trends. So we use the satisfaction end of meeting satisfaction survey when we roll out a new office. We can then see, okay, is there a room that's constantly having issues? Or maybe we rolled out a new feature set. We can go in here and look and say, oh, every room in this that has this new feature, this new tool, is getting a thumbs down. What's going on? We can go in there and look into that and see what's going on. You can also see what versions you've got going on. So if you're noticing, oh, why am 75% of my rooms are out of date, I need to go do that. I need to make sure we update everything. From there, you can also go to then the Zoom Rooms tab in this dashboard, and you can find a lot more information. So I can actually go and see a live display of what Zoom rooms are offline, what Zoom rooms are having issues. So I can see, oh, it's critical. Oh, something's not actually online. I can see that there's a warning. So if you look there, controller not charging. I can go through and just see as a service manager, okay, what's the state of our global Zoom rooms? I can look in, I can see what versions of an iPad controller or a Mac that's running the Zoom rooms, what version they're running. I can see what cameras, what microphones, what speakers, just from this one page, so I don't have to delve into each individual room. I can go and get an overall picture of what's the health of our entire fleet of Zoom rooms. So very helpful. And it's nice too, because then I can dive from here, I can dive into an individual Zoom room. So if someone says, hey, I was in conference room circle, I can then go and drill into circle and see what meeting they had. I can do a lot of preemptive troubleshooting and looking into that meeting without having to go back and forth. Oh, what time is your meeting? Da, 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 da. I can go and look here. I can see, click on the Zoom room. I can go and see who was part of that meeting. I can say, oh, I couldn't hear Bob. So I can go look at Bob and say, oh, look, Bob's got a bunch of packet loss. maybe he had some internet issues, and I can go and do some of this digging into what's going on in that Zoom room. Maybe I see a bunch of packet loss in the Zoom room itself, so I can go and look and say, oh, maybe the Ethernet cable got disconnected because someone was playing around in the IDF or something like that. So I can do some of this really cool preemptive or this really cool troubleshooting on the back end to see what's going on in that meeting, in that Zoom room, and all of that. So super helpful. You can also export all of this to a CSV and then kind of tweak it as you want and kind of get some reports to look at the state of your Zoom rooms. All right. So next, these are the bonus. I'm gonna call this the bonus round. So these are some of my favorite things that are kind of just like little tips and tricks. So one of the ones that my proudest thing for Zoom rooms that we've done is this display content. So we've actually created these lovely backgrounds with our creative team to put up as the content in a Zoom room. So we've created a little bar at the bottom that has instructions on how to join a meeting, how to do screen share, what our guest Wi-Fi is so people aren't looking around for it. And then you can't see it because we blocked it out, but there's a need help, so you can actually go to a website that has all the information around, help center articles and help center articles on how to join meetings, how to use a Zoom room effectively. And we've got about 6 of these that rotate through. So we use the digital content or the digital signage content. So we we have 3 with the meeting bar at the bottom and then 3 without. And that way they rotate through. It's a little bit of a fun thing in the conference room. And it also helps prevent screen burn. So you're not just having one background image up all the time. You don't get that burn in on your TVs. You can also use it. We use it for things like when we open a new office. We say, hey, welcome to the new office, Madison. And it kind of gives that little extra bit of kind of love to that office. People walk in and they're like, oh, that's really cool. Yeah, welcome. Yeah, this is awesome. So you can use that. If you have a big, for Zoomtopia, you could put up, hey, Zoomtopia is coming October 10th and 11th. So you could put up these events that are going on in your company to kind of build some excitement and show people what's going on, if you have a new product release. It's great. So we use this all the time, and it just makes the kind of office feel a little more friendly and cool. The next one is the end of meeting feedback. So I kind of talked about this a little bit earlier. We use this when we roll out a new office. So we get a thumbs up or a thumbs down at the end of a meeting. People can say, hey, this new feature sucks, or it doesn't suck, if we rolled out a new microphone. So it's great. We then, once we open a new office, we have a set recurring meeting at 2 weeks after to go back and look at the satisfaction of all the meeting rooms in that office. And we can say, oh, are we doing this right? Or maybe we have some improvement to make. So it's really nice. And then lastly, the scheduling display. So Zoom's got the ability to add a controller on the outside of a conference room that allows you to see if a room is available or not. So it turns green if it's available, it's red if it's not. This makes it really easy if you're walking by trying to find a conference room. You can actually then see, oh, this room's free. I can hop in. I can actually, from that panel itself, I can actually reserve the conference room for now or for later. So I just click reserve, and then it allows me to select what time do I want to book this room for, and I can save it, and then now that room's mine. I don't have to pull out my computer, go to my Google Calendar, find the room, make an event, do the whole thing. I can book it right then and there, hop right in, and off I go. And there you go. So yeah, that room's busy. So now I can't use it. Cool. So that is kind of, those things are what we've deployed and rolled out at Zendesk that have had the biggest impact and made this Zoom room deployment successful. Before we had Zoom rooms, life was a little bit tougher at Zendesk. Now we've kind of, as we've done this, we've had Zoom rooms for a little over 2 years now. We've kind of tweaked things as we've gone, and we've now got to this place where the Zoom rooms are stable, they're up and running, they're taken care of, and now people don't have to think about, is my meeting going to work? They don't have to worry about showing up 5 minutes early to make sure. They're not waiting for 5 minutes for people to get out of the conference room. So it's been a huge success for us, and hopefully this was all very helpful for you. And I think now we're going to move along to a Q&A.
Yes, now we are.
Cool. Excellent. Chris and Vincent, great job. How about we give some Zoomtopia love to these guys? Amazing.
Thank you.
Love the control that you have over 300 Zoom rooms.
Yeah, it's great.
And even more if you needed, right?
Right.
It's amazing. So great. Okay, I've got my running shoes on. If you have a question, if you could meet me in an aisle, one of the aisles, I will get there as quickly as possible.
He's really
We have
fast.
some. I'm not that fast. If you have a question, let's go for it right now. There you go, John.
Hopefully I know. Let's see.
I have a question for
Yeah.
you guys. So, digital signage is huge for my organization. We have many locations, and I like the new employee possibilities. Also, making people feel connected to the mothership when they're far and wide,
Sure.
right? I see that, and I'm actually configuring as we speak, but a web page is a possibility. What I'd like to show is how my distribution centers are doing as far as stats and dashboards. It looks like right now it's a URL. I would really love the ability to log into a URL and show a dashboard that's behind a password wall.
The great white whale of dashboards.
Yes, so I'd like to just see a couple of them, and maybe I can integrate and make a meaningful one that's aggregated. You don't want to have too much content on one screen because it can be analysis paralysis,
Sure.
but I would like to make it compelling, but most of my dashboards are going to be protected. So how can I get in them without using a third party and breaking away from my Zoom room, because I've just deployed Zoom all over the place, and I want to keep doing that, and digital signage is amazing.
Yeah, so that's one of the struggles that we've had. So I also own our kind of dashboard tool, and we've had to get a little tricky. We've had to do some kind of custom integrations for those. We honestly haven't rolled out a ton of those kind of dashboards that require you to log in on the Zoom rooms. So a lot of our content is actually a lot of the images. I don't know, Vincent, do you have any experience on customers using the login stuff on the Zoom dashboard?
I know that's been discussed before, because it is, people definitely want to use it for that dashboard purpose, and because of the security aspect, because you have to have a login. I know it's been discussed, it's been brought up. I just don't know if we've actually officially submitted a feature request for it.
Yeah.
But if not, we will after today.
Yeah, sorry, I know it's not a lot of help. It's one of the struggles that I've been trying to figure out for the last year and a half for dashboards. It's tough. So Zoom product engineers, if you figure it out, you have a win for a lot of people.
All right. There you go, Philippe.
Thank you. So you, on the beginning of your speak, you told us when you were setting up the Zoom room, you use an application to push the softwares. What's the name of it?
We use Jamf.
Jamf.
Yeah.
Okay, thank you. The other one is for the check-in feature. Do you know if it works for recurring meetings as well? So usually you set up for recurring ones. So it deletes all the recurring meetings?
It doesn't currently delete future meetings. So it only works for the meeting that's currently scheduled. Yep.
I still got my running shoes on. Okay, here we go.
I'm so glad I didn't have to run today.
You got your running shoes on too, Vincent.
Hi, thank you. So you manage 300 Zoom rooms. Do you use the same Zoom room account as the administrator for all those rooms?
Yep.
Or how do you do
So, well, we have an administrator account, and then we have a separate service account that we utilize for the management of it.
Okay,
Yeah.
thank you.
Excellent. Well, okay.
In that same space, do you have like a 12-month password reset policy?
Yep.
How does...
So yeah, we have. Well, it ends up being whenever someone leaves the team. So we have a shared password folder, and then it rotates every time somebody leaves the team. For the service account, yeah. And for the admin account.
Hey, question about distributed support. So do you have that set up where a specific group or department can support their Zoom rooms and adjust the settings to their preference?
So we have an IT help desk team in every office. They're the ones that manage it. And then generally speaking, we don't let other teams within the company kind of dictate what settings there are. But there are certain offices that have different settings kind of based on what the office kind of culture is, what their need is. We've done some of that for some of the executive offices. So if they do want something kind of a little bit different, like the meeting list on the TV kind of things, we do allow that, but not a lot of our offices. Multiple teams are on multiple floors, so we can't really cater to just one team because not everybody, or not that conference room isn't only being used by that team.
Okay, that one here, up front? Okay. Here we go.
Hi there.
Hey.
My question is regarding desktop compliance for rooms. If they're going to join Active Directory and get your McAfee's, your antivirus, and so forth, how GPOs get pushed that could affect the application. Do you keep them on the domain or keep them off the domain, and how do you keep your compliance people happy?
So when we rolled out Zoom Rooms, we went through a whole process with our security and compliance team around what the kind of middle ground was, right? Because there's a certain element of having a lot of security on the device itself and letting the rooms function as they need to be. So it was a conversation before anything even got deployed around making sure that both teams were happy, and we've kind of found a middle ground. It's on a segregated network, so it's not on our, so you can't access from that machine anything vital. But yeah, is that helpful?
Do you mind going back and explaining a little bit more about the idea of, rolling out, like having like test rooms to, test new versions and then rolling them out into other rooms and things like that? Just if you don't mind going back to that.
So we have a conference room set up. Generally, it's in our IT storage, or kind of the IT team has one at their desk in every single office. When a new version comes out or a new OS version comes out, we roll it out to those set Zoom rooms. So that way it's not actually affecting any of the conference rooms that are normally used by end users. We then have the IT team will generally join meetings from those, play around, do screen share, all the kind of, go through the basic functionality test of those, let them run for a couple weeks. And then once we've established that they're stable, we don't see any issues in any of our offices, we then schedule with the local IT teams an update. So we'll say, okay, London's happening on Monday. We'll make sure that Australia will push that when London's asleep. London will come in early, first thing, make sure everything's up and running before the office kind of gets rolling. So we basically just work with the local teams to figure out what timing works for them, and we push out the updates.
Hey, my question is primarily regarding the resource room scheduling. So do you guys use any third-party software, or do you guys just use the built-in Google or Office 365 resource rooms?
We just use Google resources. Yeah, we don't use any other third-party, and then those are synced directly to the Zoom account.
Thank you.
Uh-huh. Oh. He's coming.
One of the options for the Zoom rooms is to be able to tie in like to a Magwell capture card for a hardwire. With the 300 rooms, do you do that in many of the rooms, or as a fail-safe, or do you depend on the magic?
We use, so we do the Magwells in every single conference room. It's just another, people like that hardwired ability, and it's also really nice if you have, we do a lot of work in the community, so we have a lot of community partners come in, different vendors come in to do demos. It makes it easy. Maybe they don't use Zoom, they should, but they don't have it, right? So for them, just the ability to then plug in and share that content to screen is vital. So we previously didn't do that, so we just had a local HDMI. We got a lot of people giving feedback saying, hey, we want this to be able to go to the Zoom room, because remote participants couldn't see it, right? So for us, it's, you're building out a whole room anyways. It's not that much money to just go ahead and add this in for the future. So yeah, we love them. Mm-hmm.
So I recently discovered this kiosk capability for Zoom rooms. Have you deployed that, and what has your experience been? Can you talk about that a little bit more?
We haven't used the kiosk mode.
Yeah, so I think it's where you can lock down the iPad so that the only thing you can do is do Zoom on it.
Right.
And also on the actual machine itself.
Yeah, so right now we just use guided access, which is one of the features in the iOS. Part of our configuration removes everything off the iPad, so there's nothing else on it but Zoom. And then we use guided access so people don't try to even just try to get out of it. There is a single app mode version, like the kiosk mode for Apple as well. We find that for us just creates more issues. You know, if the iPad comes off the network, right, you have to then restore the whole thing. So for us, we do some configurations to remove everything, and then Zoom's the only thing on there. So there's no, if someone ends up forgetting to put the guided access passcode in, or the iPad dies or loses network connectivity, we're not completely hosed. So.
We got one more for you.
Cool. Let's have it.
Quick question. Just
Yep.
Curious to know how you guys are managing digital signage globally. Do you guys have local contributors local to that region, or does everything funnel through you?
Yeah, so for digital signage, our creative team owns the kind of content for like welcome screens, etc. So we actually use a third-party tool that's not Zoom for all of our digital signage, but the creative team kind of owns that content. And so when we're doing digital signage on the Zoom rooms, though, we'll have the creative team create content and work with us. And if there's an event happening in London, or they want to put up some specific content in London, they'll kind of use us as a mediator for those conference rooms. Yep.
How about one more time for Chris and Vincent here? Thank you, guys. Thank you very much.
Mostly Chris.
Appreciate it. Nice job.